Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever and whenever you are tuning into today's podcast. Today we have Ben Collings, the MD at Showcase AVi, an institution in the events industry working with lots of venues and events and corporates all around the world. Ben, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Ben, we're here today to talk obviously about some of the work that you've been doing in virtual and hybrid events and how you've positioned Showcase AVi to be what I would class as a full service provider. Everything from dealing with speakers to the technology, to the platform, to delivery, recording, execution, etc. But I think before we go into that, one, let's talk about your history. How did you get to where you are now with Showcase AVi? What did that look like? And second to that, we'll come into it afterwards, but your own experience as a supplier to the sector and how the pandemic has obviously changed and transformed your business over the short term and what that might look to the long term. So how did you guys get into the industry?
I don't know if you've got long enough, Adam, if I'm brutally honest, but I'll have a go. I've been in the audiovisual side of the events industry since I left school. My father was in it. He was in the broadcast side with a company called Viewplan Broadcast, and that's how I was introduced to this world. And then just formulated through and spent a large amount of my time at Piccadilly Hire, Piccadilly Broadcast and Professional in the early days. So that's where I sort of cut my teeth into the industry, and was always from a rental house or from a service provider for AV. Obviously London-based, been down here, and I spent a bit of time. Came out of the industry about 10, 12 years ago for a couple of years, just for a change. But then my wife got me back into it because she worked for Piccadilly, so dragged me back in. You can't get out, just so you know. It's once you're in events, you're in events. I'm sure everyone will be able that will resonate with everyone. So got back in, and then. I just decided, I've seen a lot of good and I've seen a lot of bad in our industry for AV, and I had an idea and a bit of a drive and determination to do this for myself, really, and build something and like you say, become an institution if you can. As I said, we'll never be, you always hear me say, never be big as the likes of the Blitzes, the GESs, the PRGs. Whilst we don our cap to them, big industry pros. We'd like to be a tenth of that, and I think what we've got as a marketplace and a market share of what we do, I think we've eventually got there to what we are now today, pre-pandemic.
Yeah, that's going to be a thing that we say as well. Pre-pandemic, I've heard the whole BC is before Corona now. Like that's how people are referring to it. So I think it's interesting how you got into it, and you're right. It's a very the industry just drags you back in constantly. I did a little stint outside of it as well, and I think lasted 2 years before I ended up coming back in. And I think there's so many.
I was 2 years.
Yeah.
I was 2 years.
It's like we get like a 7-year itch. We think we want to do something else, and then we realise how good the industry actually is, and how it's so friendly, isn't it? That's what I find. It's it's actually
huge. Yeah, I think it's paramount now with when you look at the economy. And then you look at all the different industries within the economy, like what's being affected, and then makes you really feels like a village. You feel like you're in a really small environment. Actually, we deliver some massive stuff. If you take the corporate side that we're in, but festivals, concerts, everything. If you sort of put it all together in a box, it's massive. But you still you walk around on the circuit, you see people. I don't mean just our industry, trade shows, you'd always bump into, especially with what we do, bumping in and out of people when you're going in and out of venues, in and out. But I don't suppose there's many industries that everyone thinks you're crazy when you actually explain what you do. And they say, what's that? Oh, yeah, it's 20-hour days, it's never stops. And then they go, Jesus, that sounds madness. Yeah, actually, it's a buzz. For me, the reason I still do it, it's a buzz. I like to come up with a creation. We like to put it all together. I've got a very, very, very good team behind me. And then when we do the design, we go out as a team, and I say that can be other partners that we might procure into, or the venues, our clients. We've got a very good loyal client base. We've worked for many, many years, which was always my key driver for when Showcase started. Is we want repeat business. We want to build a relationship, and I'm proud to say that's what we have got. irrespective of pandemics. And getting out there to deliver that. So for me, when you get to the delivery point, it goes live and it goes epically well. And the clients, have got hugs and high fives at the end of it. For me, I'm like, yeah, that's it. Obviously getting paid is always good, but the buzz is you go live. It's live industry, the live events industry. I think anyone will agree with us now that's why we're in it. That's why.
I think our industry is so unique, really, because we have immovable deadlines and so many moving parts. And, we, like you rightly said, we touch every other sector. Our industry supports every industry. That's the way that I look at it. And we're a key integral part of it. I hear from the owners of events or corporates or event marketers, people in marketing that do events all the time, that it's so critical to their business happening, both on a business side of things, but also on a community, that they're fostering their own community and supporting their customers and touching base with them. It's so intricate. And so important that although frustratingly, and before we had the chat on the podcast here, you mentioned it, that it's, we would be the last to come back almost. Travel's back and other sectors are already back or not even necessarily been affected massively. Like, we are so important to actual business happening and stopping recessions and things like that. Like, it's great to be in a sector like that. And I think you either love the events industry or you hate it.
Absolutely.
You're in or you're out.
If you dip your toe into this industry, and you're cut for it, I think, is the way to do it. I've seen people come and go, again, not just in what we industry, but people all around, client side as well. And you see they come and they go. Some people just aren't into that. There's a lot of stress and pressure. Just like anything, you get one time to get it right. I always say, if something's not right, you can take it back and get another one because it's mass produced. But when you're doing an event and then you're delivering an event across the board, that you've got one chance to get that right. And, it's not like, start, let's go again. Can in this, because we're stopped, we can record and we can edit out anything we don't like, which is interesting, really, especially with the new stuff that we've just got involved in. That with live, that's the thing, that's the buzz, I think, that hooks everyone, and technology. I started off techie, so for me, it's always about all of the cool stuff we can do with AV. So, and that's just sort of, migrated on from there.
I guess that's what you've how you've, and I'm conscious that I've got a sign in the background that says this, but I don't want to say pivoted, because for me, companies like you have always had the ability to deliver what many are doing now, which is online broadcasts, streams, bringing people in. The technology's existed. The talent, as far as I'm concerned, existed. It was just a case of the wider industry, people who managed or delivered events had to change their mindset from doing that physically to moving it to a online or a hybrid model. And that's what I've seen over the last few months, is people really kind of switching their mindset. But you guys existed with all this technology and all this ability for like last decade or something.
Yeah, I mean, we said, off air before we came on, green screen technology, which we have on ours, it's been around in TV and film for years. You're watching films and TV all the time with it. The news is like that on TV. It's just, especially from a corporate side of events, it's just new. It's a new scenario for them. So, it's how you, so answering your question about technology, yes, the technology is there. We all have it at our disposal, which is great, because rather than pivot, we use the word agile. We go to agile, we just turn our ship to go, well, we can use the technology, repurpose it in a different way, in a different scenario, a different setting. But then it's just now educating our clients and our customers to understand how that works. If you take a live event, and we've just done this with the studio shoot a couple of days ago. When the speakers come on, they're used to, if they've not worked in TV, for example, they're used to coming on stage, doing a rehearsal. There's people in the room, and then they're presenting to 1,000 plus in there and presenting their slides in that way. Now you're in a studio, in a room with three of us, and you're standing on a green background, and you're talking to no one. And that can be quite daunting. So again, service level, that's the bit we're good at, is that we would then say, well, look, this is how you do it. This is what we're doing. We just make sort of reassure them that, yes, this is different. I'm not going to sit and say this is the same as being up at the O2 and standing on stage. It's not that. But what it is it's this, we're going to give you the same delivery piece once it goes out, whether it's a pre-record stream or a live one. And I think that's the bit that, where all of the companies like ourselves are agile to do that and come up with the solution. It's then just sort of aiding the client to understand what it is they need to do. Because, like us as the service provider, that these clients that own the events that are now having to work out how they work out the ROI for their customers that bought into that live event, how they run it into a virtual event, forget hybrid for the minute, how they work into a virtual event, and then how does that get delivered and what does it look like, and then the final one, how much does it cost? That's the new bit. That's the new bit in the industry for us. From the research we've done and the inquiries we've had since launching it, is like that. There's no real finger of where that is in the air. I think I got that. What would that look like? And that's good because you get dialogue. You're getting dialogue with people where we've spent 3-4 months plus locked in our cupboards in our houses waiting to be able to talk to someone. So it's nice to be able to even have a conversation for me.
It's interesting. I'm going to have to pick a few things out there. It's really interesting you say about speakers and not having that experience of, talking just to a camera, not even like I can see you, you can see me. We can have relatively a conversation like we would if we were face to face right now. But like you say, when you have to speak into a camera, there's very little feedback, right? Apart from the distraction of the people maybe around you, which you obviously want to block out as a speaker. You don't want to focus on that. I've interestingly seen some things. There's a really famous speaker in America. I forget his name escapes me right now, but he talks to people about the stock market and making money on the stock market. And the crazy thing that he had to do to make himself feel comfortable, he had something like 100 screens set up with the people on the other end with cameras that got cameras. He was using Zoom, I think, just so he could see other people's faces, like you would
reaction.
Exactly.
People's human reaction. We're as humans, we're used to interacting with people. There's a lot about mental well-being, as you've seen in the press, documented, across the country, and obviously that's had an effect on people because we've all been locked away because under the government's instructions. So I think it is, and that's because it's human interaction. It's having, humans need interaction. We're not the best on our own. People will talk to people. I saw something on LinkedIn about. There was an NHS worker that was, I think they were in a care home. They're not allowed to hug the patient, but she breached it because this woman was 92 years old and hadn't had a hug from her daughter in God knows how many months. So she broke the rules, but she's done, and I just said, but that's human interaction. We need it. Walk around in events hugging each other. But the point is, that, as you said, the dialogue and that guy that was presenting in America needs to see people because we talk about it in our studio and they go, well, you've got a little ticker of how many people are watching you online. Brilliant. Yeah. It's a number. That's a number.
Gives me something.
Yes, we can do like what the guys did in the States, but that's obviously a big cost and you're going to need a bigger room. But yeah, that's the difference. That's the marker. That's the difference between us is that the interaction is still quite limited virtually.
Yeah, you're missing when you walk into a room, and whether you're speaking or not, you miss the vibe, the electricity, the atmosphere, don't you, of everything that's happening. And I think that's where, as corporates and event organisers working with, teams like yourself, really help smooth things over. Like, making a speaker feel comfortable is going to make their presentation better. It's going to make the experience and the engagement better for ultimately the people that are tuning in to watch that. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of organisers potentially make mistakes by trying to do it themselves with their own in-house teams. And my point to them is like, listen, you would never dream of running the big screen on your main stage and the sound and the lighting and the camera guy. Your team wouldn't do that. You bring professionals into that. So if you have the budget, and that's the big question is, what is the budget? Because there's a wide budget. Yeah. Invest in the teams like you would at live events to be your extended team. And they've got decades of knowledge that you will never be able to obtain. So trust in them and their skills and invest in that. Platform is one thing, right? I think that's where everybody's focused recently is platform, platform, platform. Like, what are the platforms out there? Can I use a Hopping? Can I use a Zoom? Can I use any of the other suppliers that are out there? And yes, they can supply you great technologies for that kind of the thing that encompasses it all. But you still need to have great presentations. You still need to have great AV, and you still need to have the production value, as far as I'm concerned, that you would expect of your live event.
Yeah,
Right?
that resonates. It's the other bit when we sat around as a team before we launched the new department of that was exactly that. It was, I need to give the customers, we as a team need to go out and say, we've got as much as we can physically get into the virtual world that we give you in a live event. So whether that's the creativity, the animations, all the stuff they normally see from us on a pre-pod point of view, to then the delivery. That for us was the critical piece, was how we normally support our agencies and our clients. Is that's what they get from us now. We need to do that in the virtual. How do we do that? And I badgered the life out of my team. And this was a group effort to get to this, and that was it. It was about what is it we can give them that's a production value into that, because that's our skill set. Will it work, Ben? Yes, it will. And they're going to believe me and trust me because we've got a great relation. That's even with new clients as well. We've managed to talk to some really great new potential customers on this. And again, just dialogue. We wouldn't necessarily, because they've got long-standing relationships with their supplier, that they already, their production partner they already have. It's fine. It's competition. We respect that. Quite nice to be engaged with them in a different conversation, which was virtual. So, and how do we do that? So, it's trying to pick up on key words on phrases we normally use in the live scenario. So they would then be able to reference it when they're talking to the team internally. Well, this is what they've said, Showcase, and this is what the cost is, and these are the things, because they're words that green screen's not a word that people are used to hearing in our industry. So, so that's why I think it helped us get those sort of conversations going, was because we used some of those elements of the live scenario of our expertise, as you say, to get it across the line.
Ben, could you tell us about some of the work that you have been planning and delivering then?
Yeah, so we've been looking into how to do all of this, what to do, what it is the customer needs, and what we can offer that's different to essentially the competition. So delivery for us has literally just happened. So we started filming our first event, which is going to be a pre-recorded event, which has been quite interesting when we've been learning what people want. And interestingly for us, it was very much, we're used to be talking about live and everything's live. These clients are very used to putting big budgets into us and investing their trust and time into us to be able to deliver them for live, where we all know lots can go wrong, especially with the good word technology. Absolutely fine. If I said, well, how would you like to do this? Would you like to run a live stream, or would you pre-record it? No, pre-record. We want to pre-record. We don't want anything to go wrong. And I think, again, that's just nervousness around what we call the new way to deliver events currently. And I think that's, for us, I find that fascinating, because we're so used to doing everything live, and all of the clients are so used to doing everything live. A million and one things, not just what we do, can go wrong on a live event, and you try and obviously mitigate all of that risk before you go out live as a production team. But then when it came to this, no, we want a lot is to be pre-recorded. We love to do it live because we think, we can do it. And, I think it's like now we can talk and it moves freer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to answer that question about when we go and what we're doing is with delivering our events now. Again, historically for us as a company, we normally go quieter in the summer months. We would have naturally been doing some outdoor events for the likes of Cancer Research and Ironman that we've done for many years, but cancelled from that point of view. So naturally for us, this back end of the year is when we would start being busy again in the live market. So I think clients are still trying to keep their date lines in that point. So, ask me this in December and I'll give you lots of different scenarios of events we've done. But yeah, so for us, we planned all through the summer to get this right and get this out. I can only go on inquiries and say that, I think we might have hit the nail on the head for what people need. And we'll grow it from there, which is why you've seen us with some of the advertising. And when we've launched this, like with yourselves and others, it's about a new department, because I think it's going to stay with us. This won't be a fad. This will not come and go. This will be part of us. And I think people will see the value in streaming outside of the live event as well, to audiences that can and can't, because there's going to be some countries and regions around it, because we work around the world. there's going to be some parts of the world that can come out of this pandemic quicker than others. So then there will be delegates and people that are going to want to come onto that event that may not be able to, but the event will run because, let's be honest, most has cancelled for 2020 and we're now focusing on 2021 market. So that's why we've spent the time, money and effort to get this as a department, an arm of our live events offering for Showcase.
I think there's two really interesting points you make there. One about the way that people are thinking about producing these events at the moment and what that might mean long term, and your second part, which is about this is the new normal. This is what's going to go forward, and thinking that we're going to automatically switch back by March next year to full live, and all those budgets are going to go back. And I don't think that's going to happen because I think people have woken up to the possibility, which is an exciting prospect as well, of being able to do these things. So to your point about, the way that people are thinking of delivering content, I think online scares them, video recording scares them. I think actually, although there's probably less control in that environment of you being there in person, you feel like you've got more control over the environment, right? And you can at least things. I don't know if you agree, but I see actually organizers and especially media and publishing companies almost becoming more, they're going to do lots of different things when it comes around to online events. I can see pre-record being a way to build anticipation of the event coming up, of the live part, having some really good sessions as teaser sessions, bringing people in, maybe some free content if it's a paid for event and things like that, as a way to market and drive registration and attendance. I think, let's be honest about it, there's going to be speakers and individuals that just can't be available at that moment in time. Yeah. They've got busy schedules, maybe they're not available just at that point, or maybe it's a time zone thing, right? It's does anybody really wanted to speak and deliver a live session at 2:00 in the morning when the event's in a different region? It's probably not going to work. So I think that Simulive kind of stuff will play a massive role, and I actually think organisers and corporates and savvy people will actually use that as a like evergreen content, as well as a way to spin up engagement. What we're doing at Event Tech Live, interestingly, is we are having lots of Simulive just to make sure it can be all polished. But then we're actually going to be using the live stream to bring in the high keynote speakers, and almost like a TV channel during the live event to bring attention to what we're doing.
You just said the word event TV. It is like that. And I think you're right, that Simulive is a good word. And I think it will the pre-event definitely draw attention. The one thing I would say from our experience of what we've been talking about with, as I said, some of our key accounts that have now gone virtual have trusted us to push that out for them into the virtual market, is trying to get the ROI is really difficult at the moment because some events have moved twice, possibly even 3 times in the space of 6 months, trying to guess when the government allows us, trying to guess if the pandemic will get under control, trying to guess if there's going to ever be a vaccine, in the next 6 to 12 months. And then there's a realisation that no, the safest bet to go true to their customers and the delegation that's going to come to that event in the normal world would have then said, okay, well, we won't offer, we'll offer it for free. We won't charge for it. So I think that has to happen, in that, which we have to be sensitive with our cost point for that, because, these aren't the same budgets as they were when they were live, for the obvious reason. The economy's been damaged, the industry's damaged. And then I think from that point on, it will then slowly grow like we know with the hybrid, and then get back to live. But interestingly, the virtual side, as you say, will stay. And that it will be the offering of the video, as you said, like a pre-teaser for what will be live, and an opportunity, like you say, to dial in, book on, and pay for that event when it goes live. And again, like any digital media, every time you're staring at this screen, there's an opportunity to sell. If you look at YouTube and how they do it, you look at all the gamers, and there's kids are sponsored, because you've got someone stuck to the screen for X amount of hours. There's that 16:9 image you're staring at, as we are now. There's things popping up and doing things. So there's always that ability on any platform to be able to advertise. So you'll know this with your event.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Once you've got someone on the screen, I think clients will then see there is an ROI for them to be able to use this. It's still new as an offering for events. It isn't polished, it isn't all straight there. It isn't all doing the same thing in a different way. You know, if you look at live events, we're all doing the same thing, but coming up with our own creative, our own designs to support the event producers to deliver their event. With the virtual, everyone's doing something a little bit different, you know, so which is a good thing, I think, because we need to try and you know drive income into our businesses.
I think there's so many different ways, and I think that's partly the problem of people trying to figure it out is what's the value of their audience? Are they, you know, are they the CEOs of big tech companies or pharma companies, and the spend with them is astronomical if a deal comes off, or is it, you know, just, I hate to say Joe Blogs, but if it's just the general run of the mill person, like what's the value on your audience? And then what's the value to that person who wants to give you money or is happy to spend money on being a part of that? Is it eyeballs? Is it just sheer volume because they want a brand exposure? Do they actually prefer to have just really 10 solid, qualified, pre-organized meetings with a certain audience type and a certain demographic? And actually they're willing to pay more for that. There's retargeting campaigns that could be done around audience. I mean, look at Twitch. Like, Twitch has built a business out of essentially live streaming for free and then providing layers of income to their creators by saying, okay, well, we're going to create the mechanism for you to get paid, but we're going to take a cut. Now, if you take the events industry, when it comes to speakers and content creators, what we tend to do is we book them and pay for them up front and then sell off the back of their name. But wouldn't it be interesting if we got an audience that we could say, well, listen, I will pay you this as a speaker to come, but we're going to facilitate a way for you to get extra income by a sponsor being able to just choose you and put your message out, or you get a share of the advertising budget, rev, or maybe even people can tip you and said, wow, that session was amazing. Like, here's £5. Now, £5 might not sound like a lot, but if you've got thousands of people doing that, that's a lot of income for that speaker potentially because of the audience. And that's how people make money on YouTube and people make money on Twitch. So I think part of the problem at the moment is the industry has not really gone down the route of selling digital, right? We've sold physical. And we've done that really, really well. I mean, there's nobody better than selling physical. I mean, we're better than like people that own retail shop fronts and office blocks and stuff like that. We sell square meters.
I think we're great. I think we're, as an industry, we're very, you know, and there's a lot of clever people out there. And I think for them, we're very good at creating a message and getting a message out there. People come to this, you know, even if they've come to this is the brand, this is how we need to get that message out there. You know, wherever you are in the food chain from an event, that I think we're very good as an industry getting the message out there. So I completely agree with that. We're one of the best industries out there for that.
Yeah, we just need to figure out how to monetize that, and we will do.
Yeah,
you know, and each individual event organizer or type of event will have their own monetizing strategy. There might be more than one. Do you know what I mean? But what's interesting to me is actually, as a sector, there's a massive potential opportunity to get lots more budget from other pockets of budget that we wouldn't have got, like digital advertising and marketing and things like that. Bring it in, and actually that will make our industry even better and more buoyant, because the same suppliers are going to, you know, you guys are going to do the live and the virtual, so the budget is going to come your way. The budget's going to go into the organisers.
Hopefully.
Oh no, it will, mate. It will. I think, you know, don't get me wrong. I totally appreciate, as a supplier, and we all know some of the stories that are happening, you know, right now about companies that just aren't able to see things through.
Yeah.
But for those that are still around, and maybe the new companies that pop up. Let's be honest about it. Maybe the new companies that pop up.
You could. I mean, you touch on that. I mean, we talked off air about this. It's and I think, unfortunately, with the news of what happened with Blitz on Monday, I don't think, you know, that's competition. You need competition in any in economy, because obviously that's how we all drive to be better, and you need to compete to be able to obviously succeed and get your business to where you want it to. Blitz is when you talk about institution at the start of this, that's an institution that's been around a long time, Blitz. You know, and a lot of those people within Blitz would have known in the early days growing up. So the point of me bringing that up is I hope not, but I worry for the big guys that have obviously got a lot of cost and a lot of people to deliver those events, is that any more go after this. And my fear is the JRS, when that stops,
Yeah.
happen, when the government turns the tap off. And I've seen a lot of lobbying from our industry about extending furlough scheme for, pockets of industries. I'm not so sure that will happen. Much has been bailed out so far, but and that's an opinion of mine. But I hope to God there's no more that happen like Blitz, because there's a lot of talent that's just gone to the wayside. And you think of all that they would have invested in technology-wise. One of the biggest rental houses in the country, and from that point of view, we need to all sort of rally around to try and come up with these other ideas to gain the revenue. Because if someone sees, I'm fully aware, someone might say, well, actually, I like what Showcase have done, we'll offer that and we'll do it in our way. That's competition, right? So we know that's going to happen. But if it means they're still around for when we come out of the blocks for live event, then that's great. Obviously we'd love to have major market share.
Yeah.
It is one of those things, and it's all now about survival. It's about, for everyone, every company, our side of the fence, the other side of the fence, because we're talking about us today, but what you actually say is, well, if the client's not running an event, that client's got the same problem as us, because think of all the money they draw in for income for their event. So we're all in the same boat, paddling away.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, Ben. I think the word of the moment is solidarity, innit? Competition aside, when we can be competitive again and we can have those, cheeky conversations around the bar with our competitors and have a laugh and all that kind of stuff, then there's a place for that. At the moment now, it's about the industry coming together.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I don't think, personally, I don't think, my opinion is, I don't think the furlough scheme is going to end up rolling for pockets, because for the government that would create an environment which then every sector would have a reason to get support. And ultimately, the government's paying for it now, but it will be us that pay for it in the long run.
Completely agree.
And I personally, I think I know they've put this 1.5 billion into the arts, and I think they feel that that's events. And I know a lot of it will get swallowed up by big venues and things like that, institutions again that need to be kept around. Don't get me wrong, but as an industry, I think they feel like they've ticked the box. And
they really haven't. I mean, the answer to that is, I don't think the government knows what it is they bailed out, in inverted commas. There is theatres. There's a lot of theatres. I know a lot of people. And our industry is heavily invested by freelancers, whether that's a freelance events producer, or freelance technicians. You think about what we do.
Yeah.
We don't have, an army of men, of technicians sat on the shelf with the kit waiting to pick them off to go out and do an event. Freelancers, so they're their own business in their own rights. And I know a lot of people that have also have got hit trouble because of this. And I don't think the government is looking at things. Venues are clearly affected. We could go on all day talking about the list of people and companies that are affected by this, but the 1.5 billion, as you say, that where's that gone? Gone? Because I completely agree with what I see on the likes of LinkedIn and all the other socials where people stand up and talk about it. Is we as the event side, especially on the corporate side, with what we do as with AV companies, set companies, furniture rental companies, caterers. We are 100% missed. There's no question at all. And I agree. The theatres, there's some very old theatres there that are in trouble. I understand. It's not mine. I've never been on that side of the industry. But when you talk to some of the techies that are out there that do theatre stuff, and I know there are some AV companies that service that industry solely. So for that side of things, that's obviously damaging for them. So I agree, money needs to go into that, but money needs to go into us as part of the industry as well. Same with festivals, same with concerts. Everyone has been affected somewhere, because some of those providers, we're not rock and roll, but some of the rock and roll trucking companies. Think about all those tours, all the musicians, all the tours. I know our event partner that delivers all of our haulage for us, massively affected by it, because there's obviously nothing going out the door.
Yeah.
And we see it with pubs. Everyone said, the pubs, we had that surge. We all needed a pint. We all ran out the door in the first 2 days, and we all got absolutely blasted just before. And then I was funny enough, I was walking to the studio, and I said it to my colleague, and I just said, I've walked past 3 pubs, all shut. And there we go. It's the cost of opening is outweighing the amount of custom. And that is where we're at.
And it's interesting, like and I know this from our industry, how closely festivals, events, B2B events are connected with hospitality and the high street and the bars and the restaurants around places like I was going to call it GMEX then, but like things like Manchester Central and Olympia and all that kind of stuff. And they brought this Eat Out to Help Out scheme, but how much money has been missed by all of those bars, pubs, restaurants, hotel chains, and travel industry through events being restricted to the point where they're not allowed to go ahead, or they're now in the position where masks have got to be worn. So are people outside of the events industry going to be that really inclined to go and wear a mask for 6 hours at a conference? Probably not, right? Because they're uncomfortable after you've been in Tesco for 20 minutes.
Well, you've done it. You said you go and pick up your shopping for a mask, fine, not a problem. Fill up your car, go in, fine. To go then to this hybrid of 30 people, and now we've got to wear a mask. To take it off when we're having our dinner in a restaurant, it's just I'm not quite sure how many people be comfortable spending a few hours, like you say, which is an average business meeting or a small networking event. How are they going to do it? This is too much like work. We're not going to do that, and that puts off the event organising. Oh well, we're not going to run that now, so we're back to the supplier, the venue. And it all comes back down again, which is where I think it was with the hospitality side. The pub's great, same hotels, they're not opening yet because there's not enough bedroom, and business travel will be affected. We are one of the only industry, I say not one of the only, we probably are the industry that controls audiences and mass participation events the best.
Yeah.
And,
Safely.
in or outdoors, no matter what you're doing, because it's all about data capture, especially in the corporate world. You go exhibitions, it's all about data, capturing who's coming, getting the leads to be able to sell on to the customer that's going to attend that event because they want to meet people and sell their product. And the government's unsure, how to do that. And I'm a football fan, but I was like, as soon as they let the stadiums open, we've got a good chance our industry will open. So I just want to see a football match with people. And then I'm comfortable knowing that we'll then be able to have an event. So, but that doesn't even look like any time soon. So,
could you imagine somebody on the entrance of exhibitions and corporate events just can I have your name and telephone number and jotting it down it wouldn't happen. I mean, for a start, it'd be a data security issue and GDPR issue, wouldn't it, around events? But you're right, we keep people safe the best. We track and trace the best. We deal with people that have had too much alcohol or possibly drugs. Like, we're almost like the police on steroids.
I think what security does,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Like, we have the best medical provision at festivals and events. Our job is to take care of people for a certain amount of time and let them enjoy either business content or consumer content, whatever.
But health and safety, if you remember, sorry to interrupt, but health and safety was a big thing over the last 12 months, again, pre-pandemic. If you think about what you saw in the media, I'm sure you've covered it. And our venues are run so well, so tight. There's stringent parameters and markers in there for us as a supplier. So again, one of the safest. So when you go and look at, they set up the Nightingale, who did they use? Event suppliers. I know the Army were involved, but they used event suppliers. So the point is, they should give us a little bit of trust and not treat us like everyone else, that they think we can't control things, and give us a chance to demonstrate. Look, if there's a spike, if something happens, I get it, like anything else, you see a spike, it's got, no one wants to get ill for, just to keep all the companies alive. But we also do need to be putting a step forward to navigate through that. No different as we talk about the virtual. We've got to put a step forward to work it through for everyone to go, right, this is how you do it. Share best practices. This industry, we talk about partnerships. We share best practice to get this industry alive. And then I think we can all breathe a big sigh of relief that it's coming again. I'm not saying we've recovered overnight. I believe we're going to hit a recession. This is a happy chat. So but the point is, we need to be going to try and combat recession as well, to try and keep that industry. Because again, if we got people coming across and you talk about time zones, I think our industry actually is one of those industries that doesn't really matter about time zones. If there's a plane, people will travel in the business environment and get across to that to that location they need to. So that will then help the travel industry. You know, we're not the sole industry that's going to make the country get back on its feet again. But right now, we're not on our feet. And I think that's the message I'm trying to say is we're not on our feet. We're nowhere near it as an industry. And we need to get back up to prove to the government that you need to let us out and let us go.
I guess then, Ben, as a bit of a final thought, what do you think is ahead of us as an industry over the next maybe 6, 12 months, something like that? And I'm asking you to stare into a bit of a crystal ball, but it'd be interesting to know what your point of view is as a supplier now.
Yeah, I'd say our crystal ball is the business plan.
Mm.
That's probably the closest. You know, that's our realistic crystal ball, is looking at when we think live events is going to, you know, it's affected us. You know, we've lost obviously a lot of income because of it, and it's when's the start date? The virtual and the hybrid. We've got the 4 key markers for that. We will gain some income. That's great. We can build some events back up for people. That's a great thing. But truly back to live events, a personal opinion, I would say March next year. My concern is if they don't allow the people to move around the country more freer than what we are, then I don't think you're going to get the confidence of people, audiences, to come back. And if we focus on what we are as a business, the corporate market, because they need, our clients need footfall for their event to run. Otherwise, it's going to just cost. It's going to be counterproductive. It's going to cost too much. Therefore, it won't run as an event. And I've heard a few people say about, oh, we're now realigning potential dates next year, moving them on a month, because where we had that spike, it was in Manchester way, wasn't it?
Highway.
Was it? Stay in. Is that it moved us all back another 2 or 3 weeks? So now it is starting to affect 2021's plans. That worries me. But my if I was doing the crystal ball, I would say March, April next year, as an opinion. And I think there's a few like me that share that. I want to be wrong. I want to be starting in January, and you know, touch wood, we can, and you know, we're confident we can do it. And I'm sure the likes of the companies we work for have got the skill set as well to come up with a way. We'll support them all the way as well to be able to deliver it earlier if the government lets us out.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, like you say, that the government does let us do that. There's nobody better in our industry to do it safely. It's what we do. I know I'm working on my plan for Event Tech Live, and it all makes sense. There's a financial element to it, I'm sure, for most organisers, because safe events take up more space at the moment. But the government really needs to do something sharpish, otherwise the fact that we can't organise events for our customers will mean that they start to lose money. And if people think that we're in a recession now, you know, events are so integrated. It's so integrated in the facilitation of money and business happening and the, you know, everything being buoyant. It'll take a massive hit.
And I think, and you see some of these companies that are saying that you're not to come back to work until, you know, earliest January next year. You know, so people aren't navigating through into London, which we do a lot of, most of our work in London or when we're abroad. But if you're not coming to these big cities to work, then we're not going to get people, you know, wanting to come in. And is that because obviously London has a congestion of people in there? There really isn't. It's, you know, I'm going in there weekly now, and they're really not. You know, trains. I posted something up on my Facebook. It was 8:15, and there was 3 of us on the platform.
Wow,
it's madness.
Yeah.
Last week, so London's not open. You know, there's things happening, but it's my experience coming out just outside of the M25 and in. So, but that's really it's, you know, talk to the cab drivers.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're morbid. You want to speak to them? They're, you know, they're going for 4 hours without a fare. You know, it's just there's so many people in life that have been hit by this. You know, as I said, our equivalent, the freelancers. You know, they're all been hammered.
Yeah.
By it. You know, and if we haven't got the work, they haven't got the work. So,
and the danger is if that talent has or is forced to leave the industry and go elsewhere, it's not, you know, the knowledge and the experience that these guys and girls that they have, that's what makes the industry so great, is that they have years of experience and understanding, and when something does go wrong, they know how to fix it so quickly that hardly anybody notices. And if that, it's not like you can go to the university and all of a sudden become a lighting technician or a rigger or a sound engineer, or know how to, even crew, like crew understand the
Through
technology,
companies, yeah,
like how things work. You can't just bring people in, random people, and go, right,
no,
move all that stuff over there and do it safely. And that's the biggest danger to our sector, is that they will have no choice but to go and find other work. And I think rightly so. Would they be scared or cautious to come back to an industry that's at risk? Because they're going to go and think, well, I'm safe here, kind of thing at the moment. I've got a job. Like, why go back?
yeah. Yeah, I found that this was about 18 months ago. I was talking to our ops director and I said, we need some more young blood in. From the AV side, when you look at the tech,
Mm,
there's some of, my age and older. So we're all, it's a young person's game, the audio visual side of it. It's heavy, it's
mm,
always unsociable hours, they don't really do it. So the flight case heavy, loaded and unloading lots of trucks. Excuse me. And I was just watching one day on a job we were installing. We need more young blood. And and funny enough, last year I started seeing more youngsters coming through, which was great, because obviously that's the industry needs to re-evolve, and there's a lot of clever kids out there. And that was really nice. But now, if obviously this stops us and they're not earning a crust, then they're going to, obviously, like you said, go off and have to, drive a van or whatever it might be that earns them away. So
yeah.
there's a couple of people I know that've gone off into different industries because they need to earn a living, and that would be a shame to lose the talent, because what I do believe is, going back to the point just a moment ago, is when it comes back with the crystal ball, I think when it does come back, it's going to come back with ferociousness about how hard it will, how many things. Well, because once I think one or two big shows run, then I think, and we need one or two big shows to run. We want one or two shows to run, because I think that gives so many people comfort. I saw one event, I think it was Hive had put it on LinkedIn, in China, that had run.
Yeah.
So we do need to see more of that around the world, especially for us, because as I said, we deliver events around the world. We're not just UK based. But for that point of view, we need to see that more in our country to be able to get it going. And if we can get one big show to go, I think the rest will follow. And March, April, next year it comes back and it'd be good. But again, we all need to still be here as companies and individuals to be able to deliver that for them.
Exactly. Those big shows don't run without thousands of people working on them, and hundreds of suppliers, right? And if they're not around,
Right.
then all of a sudden, how can that event even go ahead? So it's constant, this constant trickle down effect of everything's connected. Like you say, the organisers need to get the go ahead that they can run, but that needs to happen quickly enough, and money needs to exchange hands so the supply chain is there, and they can pay, and they can put things in place. Things like, let's take Farnborough International. I know one supplier has £1 million capex on that every single year. That's out to how they refresh their stock and things like that goes into the rest of the industry. If that event can't happen, then that money's not invested in the stock and the technicians and the staff. That doesn't get that is not then made available to other event organisers and other events, because that's how it's funded. So yeah,
But I agree with that. But I do think you've got to, and people obviously they want to penny pinch to keep the purse strings tight, because they're all trying to survive. But equally, we've got a lot of loyal customers that have been very good to us over the years. Equally, we have to them, and give them as much added value as we can. We've got a couple of clients, I'll just throw it on the back of the van, that type of chat. It's done in jest, and we laugh and joke about the magic calculator comes out. But actually, now is the time to be able to try and support the client, because we're not sure, right, but what do you need us to do? This is what we've done. We've even offered a free event for one client that, we've worked with them for 5 years, completely new to them. It's an end user. They don't have an events team. So we just said, look, to show the board, to show all of the key stakeholders what this means for your sales team to be able to go out and sell their product. Let's just do one. Let's just show you, because I think we've done the demos, we've shown them around the studio virtually. That all really helps them understand the lovely e-document that we've put out and all the glossy literature and lovely marketing videos we've done. But actually, because you can't touch and feel, you can't see because you are stuck behind the screen. And I said, let's do one for you to get to grips with it, because I think once you've seen it, and that's what we need to do. That's what we all need to do as suppliers to our clients, to give them where we can. And I'm sure they are. I don't think I'm probably telling anyone any new news today, but it's just to re-echo that's the best way to support, because ultimately, without your customers, you haven't got a business. Without your staff, you can't deliver the business. So we are really one big team that all needs to come together to be able to get that out. And as long as you're not too short-sighted, because it's very easy to look at the bank balance and go, oh, Jesus, we need to do something about this. But we need to sort of be forward-thinking. A very proactive approach would probably be the best, albeit we're still all locked up and, running at 10% workforce, for example, in certain companies, then you're gonna need to really dial in together to literally pull this out.
Brilliant, Ben. I guess on that note then, for anybody that's been listening or hearing or watching, should I say, today's podcast, where's the best place to get in touch with you if they want to talk to you about how you might be able to support their virtual, hybrid, physical events going forward?
You can obviously go online to showcase-avi.com, and you'll be able to see it in /live streaming. So you'll see all the information of what we've just launched as that offering. And obviously you can contact me directly at ben@showcase-avi.com. All the numbers are also on the site, and then all of our socials, which are at Showcase AVi.
I know you've got an excellent brochure that you sent me as well that's just been released with an overview of everything that you can do, that full service opportunity, which I think there's a lot of organisers and corporates out there that need somebody like you that can just take care of everything for them. So we'll link to that back to your website or something in the show notes and on the posts and stuff, so people
Thank you very much.
Grab a hold of that. Ben, thank you for coming on today and explaining what you're doing.
No, pleasure.
And
Thanks.
thank you for being very brutal and honest about where our industry is. It's not all roses at the moment, and I think it'll be a breath of fresh air for others that are listening to hear your experience and your thoughts, because they resonate with me specifically.
Well, thank you. Just an opinion, and I'm known to be a little bit black and white.
The world is formed around opinion, though, mate. So, Ben, thanks for coming along today, and we'll probably get you back on another one, maybe March or something like that.
Our pleasure. Yeah, I love to chat. I'm going to go on another 3 hours if I'm honest.
All right, Ben. Thanks a lot, and we'll catch you in the next one.
All the best. Thank you.